Hello everyone, welcome to the third part of how we're going to implement this simple dialog system. In this video we're going to go ahead and finish off the entry class, and that's actually going to finish off the entire core to our dialog system. In the next video we're going to go ahead and create a test condition to kind of show how that's going to work, and then the video after that we're going to create a way of creating conversations and running through them to see how they would work, kind of thing. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into creating our entry class. We're going to need a string which is going to hold the text that is read as we go through the conversation. We're going to need a reference to the conversation that this entry belongs to. If you can recall that the conversation is actually going to act as a database to all the entries, so this entry doesn't know about the other entries. So to get a reference to them, you're going to have to reference the conversation and then get entry, the method get entry from that conversation to get a reference to the other entries, and that's going to be provided. The ID that's required in get entry is going to be provided within the links that are stored on this entry. So with that being said, we need links and conditions. So let's go ahead and create a list of conditions called mConditions, and then private list link mlinks. Okay, let's go ahead and get the getter and setter taken care of before we move on to the constructors. So string text get return mText set mText equals value. Okay, and I'm going to copy that again. I don't really like doing getters and setters. They take forever. I mean, I like doing them. I use them all the time, but I don't like typing them out. I just copy and paste them. I should really get a template started. But either way, let's go ahead and create the entry. Yep, it's going to have a default, which is going to call another constructor and provide default text to it. Again, we don't provide any functionality, so let's just go in curly brace, begin and end curly brace, and then go ahead and type in another constructor, which takes a string, which is going to be text, and set mText to equal it. And the conversation is going to be set to null because we don't have a conversation when we start. But we once we assign the conversation or the entry to a conversation, it sets it at that point, and that's why that I said we were going to come back to the add entry method. So give me just a moment, and we'll be going there next. So set the conditions equal to a new list, and the same thing with the links. I'm just going to copy and paste it, change the type. Alright, now let's go back to the add entry within our conversation class, and down here we're going to say entry.conversation equals this. So whatever conversation that the entry gets added to, technically gets added to last, will be the conversation it references. So yeah, technically in this instance, a link or a entry could exist amongst multiple conversations but only reference one, but that would be handled more in the conversation editor as opposed to here. And there is no conversation editor. I haven't created one. I'm saying if you create one. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on from there. You need a way of adding conditions. So for any condition, it doesn't matter if you have multiple conditions or not that are the same, like duplicate conditions, because if one of them is true, they're all going to be true, and one of them is false. I mean, if one of them is false, you can't traverse the entry, so it's not going to matter that another one's false too. And if all of them are true, which duplicates will both be true if one of them's true, then you're going to be able to go through the entry. So it's not going to matter if there's multiple conditions that are the same. So I'm not going to worry about checking I just know that I won't add multiple conditions that are the same, so I'm going to rely on myself, but it's not going to break the code if you do. Okay, and then we're going to need an add link. We're actually going to need it twice, so we'll do add link. I'll actually delete that because I'm going to just copy add link. Let's see. Change that to integer. Change this to ID. And then we're going to call add link down here. We're going to pass it the ID. And we're going to say priority, or sorry, link.priority is normal. Okay, so it's providing a default priority just like the constructor did above for the link. I'm going to add another one, which I'm going to call, or make that public, and then, you know what, I'm actually going to do another method as well. So new link ID and priority. And I'm going to change this to priority and cap that off. And then I'm going to create another method. It's going to take a link. Okay. Now I'm just going to say m.links or mlinks.add link. So the same thing with the links. It doesn't matter once they're sorted. It's not going to matter if you have duplicates. And we are going to sort it, and that gets done in the next method, literally next method, which we return entry and call it next. Okay. So here we need to sort the links by priority. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and type mlinks, which is the list, and we're going to say sort. And we're going to provide a delegate method to it. And it's going to take x, y. We're saying those are the parameters that we're passing in for this delegate method. And that's going to be a link x and link y. And then we're going to compare them with lambda expression. We're going to say x.priority is greater than y.priority. And then we're going to put a question mark after that, which means if the statement before it is true. So the way that we view this, what do we want to happen? Well, we want the highest priority to be towards the beginning of the list and the lowest priority to be towards the end. So to make the highest priority towards the beginning, we need to return -1, so it gets pushed towards the front. So if x.priority, if highest is greater than lowest, which is true, we want the highest to go left. So we say -1. This will push x left. Else, we check x.priority is less than y.priority. So if less than or lowest is less than highest, which is true, we want it to go right. So we provide a 1. And if it's equal to each other, we just say don't move at all. Don't worry about it. You're good. Okay, so that sorts it the way that we need it to be sorted. Then we're going to go ahead and do a for each loop. And we're going to say for each link in mlinks, because it's sorted, it's going to start with the highest and then move its way down to the lowest priority. If they're all the lowest, then it's just going to iterate across them all. But starting with a random one, it's not really going to be able to determine at that point. So make sure you set your priority if you want it to run first. So let's see. We're going to say that entry next equals conversation dot get entry, and then we're going to use the link dot next ID. So that's how we get the next entry. Is again, we're using the conversation like a database, and then we're going to say if next does not equal null, because it can return null, remember, and next dot check conditions. Now this is a method that has not been created yet, but we're going to do it in just a second. Return next. If you get through the for each loop and you can't find a single one, just return null. Okay, so we need to do this check conditions, which I'm going to leave as a private bool, check conditions, that thing. Okay. So this all looks good the way that it is. Now we need a way to go through the conditions. Well, first off, let's do the default. You know, like let's establish a default. Well, what if the conditions are equal to null, or the conditions aren't equal to null, but the count is equal to 0? Well, if that's the case, we want to return true, because that means we don't have any conditions, and there's no reason to check the conditions. So now we're going to go ahead and go through it with a for each loop. For each condition in m conditions. Okay, so this is where we go through. We're going to check every single condition, and if a single one is false, we're going to return false. So we need to do if not condition.evaluate. So if it evaluates to be false, return false. We don't want to return true if else. We don't want to do else return true, because then it's only going to check the first one. So we're going to iterate through all of them, and if it doesn't return that if statement once, it's going to exit out of the for each loop, and at that point we want to return true, because that means it went through every condition, they all turned out to evaluate to be true, and now we're going to just return true. Okay, so that is all that we need to do. This next will now return whatever is highest priority with all of its conditions being true. So in the next video, we're going to go ahead and create our first condition. This is actually going to be the only condition that we actually test, but it's going to inherit from the condition interface, and it's going to allow us to see how we need to structure that. So I will go ahead and see you in the next video.